I use the Esposito from Bell. I use the Cats app, put down swap. And we are really fortunate to have had a lot of success with Temporal. We had a lot of fun with it. We have our share of challenges with it, but I attribute that largely to the law of large numbers. So today, I'm going to head back to the bag. I'm not really getting anything other than that. We're just going to go for it. Where we are, how we got here, how we did it, and then some of the cool stuff we learned, right? Okay, so where we are, we did it. Okay. So in the real numbers, and 120 plus production use cases, 50 plus namespaces, 800 plus active users. That's great. It's widely adopted. It's like a fully saturated cache app. It underpins Afterpay, and it's growing rapidly at Square. It's completely backed by Terraform. We have self-service tooling for all of our SEs. It CI/CD everything. 200 plus PRs from our contributors in less than 6 months. And then that last one's just for our hosts. We do have configuration managed, and it's awesome. Because I got to get rid of my crappy dashboard when I was doing the napkin map. It did it up. Okay, so money right out is what do we do at Temporal? I have to pay the whole thing. If you didn't know, that's Temporal under the hood. Paper money and check deposits, how we actually move money in and out of banks. If you ever see Cash App Pay logos anywhere on a website or at the terminal, that's us. Monthly statements that you get. And then there's a ton of stuff because we're a bank that absolutely must go out and reporting on all sorts of interesting cadences. And Temporal is a great fit to that. So there's more than this, 115 or so more. But that's not too much about the background. Let's talk around this. How we did it. We can talk at Temporal's Replay 2024, where we talk about kind of being a weird team, an unusual team, where instead of like looking at Jira tickets and how people were interacting with us, in this sort of transactional way, we partnered with all of our teams to help get their use cases out. And our product managers hated us because we would fill Jira with empty tickets and stuff and let other people's success be our OKRs. And we really focused a lot on investing in our customers and making them feel like they were partners with us. And see a friend over there who can speak to this. And if you see that bus station, just exactly like I am right now, we had a whole point graduate approach, how we got from like nothing to where we are. If you're interested, you can check that out later. But there were some challenges that came with this. We were really focused on getting everybody off the ground, and we got a ton of people off the ground. And the way we kind of pictured it, by the way, terrible ChatGPT graphics. Yeah, I can only use so much. We kind of imagined that we would give everybody their own perfect little area that they could work and they'd be in charge of it, and that would be wonderful. And they'd be independent and joyful and productive. And that's mostly true, but instead of looking like this from where I was seeing it, looked like it was absolute chaos. We had hundreds of people who owned the namespaces at the admin level. And namespaces are like buckets of queues for folks who haven't used Temporal. We had account-wide admins, like for everything, that everybody who had their own domain needed to be an admin to make namespaces. Processes were all different. And it was kind of getting out of control. It was time to clean up the mess, right? All right, now where does the metaphor come in? But once you get out of 10, it's really hard to get back in the bag. Oh, okay. There we go. All right, a little grabbing. If you look really quick, it works. Okay. Anyway, so how do we get back in the bag? We had a pretty solid approach to this. We had to figure out how bad the problem was because of, we had to like take stock of the problem. And then we had to actually make a justification for doing it because everything was obviously working well. We were gangbusters, right? Like our tools show success, and then I'll get to the rest of that as we go. So the way we had to start this, Catch App, we were with our customers and we kind of helped them set their own tents up, like in this metaphor. On the Afterpay side, they have a team of tent setuppers who would sort of get people their tents. And on Sweat, it was like a free for all where you just kind of getting your tents from a giant fan. And hopefully we didn't even know people were taking tents. Right. Um, so we got to this point where we were like, I don't even know who to talk to go fix this stuff. I don't know what we've configured, what you rely on. But again, it was worth it. So we had to like kind of make the business case. So one of those tents was full of money, literally. And this was, Brock has a industrial bank called Square Financial Services, which is the actual bank. Like there's a bunch of virtual banking stuff we do, but that's the bank, right? So they were an early customer of Temporal, and all I had to really do was like point at the fact that I had access to, anybody who was an admin for anything had access to Temporal money, and was going to argue about reducing the risk bank, right? So we focused on these folks first. And we started to build tools for them. And we chose Terraform because there's not really any viable options. All that is viable, not having IOCs is even worse. Terraform's the least bad option, and we got the least focus we could. Shout out to our friends at Temporal who were like, they had us as early design partners on that, and we found lots of bugs on the way. It was great. No complaints. And we picked like easy stuff first. So Temporal has like users and namespaces, and users really only matter for the UI. So we targeted the users first, so that if I blew away everybody's access, I could say sorry and not get blown away to tent full of money, right? So anyway, we focused on like wins as soon as we could, and we had people like kind of share what they as they got the self-service tooling up, and that gave us the runway to draw the rest of the out. And I'll get into exactly what we did, the technical piece right after this. Don't worry, I promise I have some right code. And then we celebrate. We did up a switcheroo, which I'm still really proud of. I had like Remit to go fix this for cash, but I absolutely did it for all of Block with my team at the same time. So we thought we were going to get a chunk, but we actually got everybody. So that was awesome. I was really stoked about that. But it was actually sort of a side effect of how we had to make it happen. All right, the technical part. Cool. So to get everything into Terraform, try to say the right word each time. We had to get all the data and kind of put it in like a little intermediate language to make this all work. So if you haven't used Temporal, you basically have to name your stuff, see where it lives, use the CA cert for MTLS so that you can send your stuff to it safely. You can do some filters that block people who you don't want to send stuff to you. And then search attributes were just mentioned, and they're how you sort of add visibility to your running workflows. That was mine. And then these are separate. This is the access. And for us, this is like LDAPs for who we should have write and read access. We originally had admins there too. But this is not actually how Temporal is modeled. Like the data model doesn't work like this under the hood. So what we had to do to make this work, I'm going to loop around this and try to make sense of it. Because I didn't have all the people to talk to, the first thing we did was get our data, and we had a bunch of scripts and tooling. So first we did API calls to grab all of our users and namespaces and dump those into intermediate files over here. Then we did this giant YAML generation where we took all that JSON, spit it into those YAML files that we showed you. And this went into data folders in our repository, our Java repository. And then we have a custom thing that's kind of like GitHub code owners, but a little bit bigger. What we did, you looked again at those access blocks that I showed you and extracted the users from it and turned that into GitHub code owner information. And then those fed into our Terraform modules, which I'll show you in a minute. And we get the hell loop plan to apply endlessly until we got everything working. I'll tell you about why it was hard. Time. Okay, run a little long. Okay. So this is how that pipeline would look like for most things. Dev, staging, prod. You just make your stuff and you go, right? This is what we started to do. But then we realized I probably have access to a staging namespace and then the production namespace as well. So we ended up in a spot where in my TFC, these all looked correct and didn't conflict. When I actually wanted to apply them to the backend, couldn't do that. That's wherever.com shows up twice. This is a huge pain, but we found out a really cool way to get around this. This is broadly applicable for any tool that you have, which has a single pane of glass, and not distinct accounts like AWS might have. So what we decided to do is do all of our namespaces first. And then by the time that you get to users, you'll know that if they have access to an namespace, it must have been created already, like logically, right? So the way that this was set up, I think is pretty neat. We had 8 modules, which are like this is how we mash everything together behind the scenes. For namespaces, comment has a bunch of like constants and stuff, and then users. And then we have these data folders where each namespace was in a folder, usually by team, but occasionally just by namespace. And those went into our output modules where we instantiated these things and then spit them out into the cloud, Temporal cloud. So we have namespace A dev, namespace B staging, namespace C production, and shared users. And the way we look back is, if you remember, I have that little ... in my YAML. We took the top path of each by environment, and we made our namespaces and and ignored the users, right? And then when we got to that last step of the pipeline, we ignored the environment altogether, and we grabbed all of the users from all of the data folder approximately at the same time. We pulled a set of them together, and then we made all of our users. And this set together let us kind of get everything in the happy path built. So that's what we ended up building. I'll go back to that for 1 second. The side effect is that going backwards sucks because it sort of relies on everything kind of going to the right. But the pain of that was fairly small compared to trying to figure out all the other problems. So we just kind of deal with that. First up, we learned the CA certs are M-encoded certs, and it's a huge pain to actually encode and decode them across like the outputs from Temporal, putting them into Python, back into YAML, and workspace matters because you might concatenate scripts, certs. You can't tell if you got it right or if you're about to take something offline. So you're not supposed to read this specifically. It's just, this is all the stuff we had to add behind the scenes for when we formatted our certs to make them come out the way that Temporal gave them back to us in 2 languages away. Another cool thing is because a bunch of people shared their CAs, we gave people shorthand to refer to those. And in their code, they could skip the begin cert, end cert crap and just give us like these like shorthand ones. And then we would do some cool swapping behind the scenes that said, if you give me a cert, it's actually already in there. I'm just going to replace it with the internal value. That was great because they got rid of all the white space errors that might have been from customers. The last bit, Terraform import blocks are awful to write. It's just impossible. It depends. Every different resource has its own. This one, again, don't try and read it. Just look at how horrible it is. And this is how we had to figure out by hand. We just had to mess with it until we figured out how to get this is search out of these. But because we used import blocks, we were able to get to the point where planes came back totally clean, where we were only importing and not creating or destroying anything. And that's how we knew that we could go live to production, because the plane was going to run. Not that I wasn't like freaked out when I hit the button, but from what we saw, it said, I can take a reference to everything I found it on the back end. I'm just going to add a state mention to that and not screw it in. So these are the challenges we ran into. We had a lot of fun doing it. We'll be sharing the slides in that Temporal community Slack. If you're at all interested, it's a great place. Even the AI channel is good. There's like a helper channel that like tells you how to build stuff. It's cool. We will have a blog post about this with snippets of the code, and we'll all be fighting Terraform and for the rest of the course. So thank you. That's all I got. I'm happy to talk more about this if you're interested. Yes.